Good morning, African Stars International School learners. I'm Miss Helvi, your grade 6 social studies teacher. Welcome to our first social studies e-learning lesson. Our topic for today is our shared history. The Iron Age. When did Iron Age begin? It began when people started making tools from iron. So when they started making tools like the axes, the hoes, all those things which are made out of irons. So Iron Age started in Africa by 500 BC. BC means before Christ, before the birth of Christ. And in the Middle East, Southeastern Europe, and Central Africa, it started around 1200 before Christ. In the Southern Africa, where Namibia is situated, Iron Age started in about 100 AD. AD is a Latin word which means Anno Domini, and in English it means the year after the birth of our Lord. Old, Middle, and Modern time. The history of a person. We all have our history, our personal life stories, and our history is displayed in a timeline, which is a way of showing a list of events in the order that they happened. This is an example of a timeline on page 38 in your Platinum Social Studies grade 6 textbook. So we can look at this example of Festus' life. So in your timeline, you have to place the events, the most important events which happened in your life. For example, you can start with your birth, the stage when you're a toddler, when you went to preschool, and it ends with your present life. Where, for example, you are in primary school, so your timeline has to end with the stage of primary school. Stages of history. History is divided into stages. We have old time, middle time, and also modern times. The old times. This refers to Iron Age and Stone Age. Stone Age is when people were making tools made out of stones, as well as the ancient world, for example, the Egyptian Empire during that time of the pharaohs and all, early Greek, and also the Roman Empire when people used to be ruled by emperors. Middle Ages. It started a few hundred years after the birth of Christ and ended around 1500 AD, about 500 years ago. So now we are in 2020. It cannot be 500 years ago anymore. It's probably 510, 520. It's approximately around that time. Modern ages. It is the time from 1500 AD until now. AD, remember, it means after the year of our Lord. You count from year 1 when Jesus Christ was born until now. It started in Europe when people started making many new things. For example, they sell to other countries and explore the world. They started questioning the power of churches and they wanted to read for themselves. So during that time, it's only the priests that used to read the Bible and the people used to listen to the priests. So the people wanted to read for themselves and to make rules for themselves, as church is the one that used to give the rules. Science and technology developed and many new things were invented. For example, the machines, the vehicles like the cars and the aeroplanes, and also other things. Now, activity time. You open in your books on page 38, your Platinum Social Studies, grade 6. You have to answer question 1, A, B, C, D, and E. You have to use the timeline above. During which time were you born? So you have to check the timeline. Is it during pre-colonial era, or is it during the German Southwest Africa, or is it during South African occupation, or during independent Namibia? So you have to choose between these 4 stages. During which time were your parents born? Again, you have to refer back to your timeline above. For how many years was Namibia a German colony? D, how long was the South African occupation? You have to check how many years are between 1915 and 1990. E, how many years have we been independent? You have to check from 1990 up to 2020, how many years are between. Using primary sources and secondary sources. Historical sources are not only written documents, they can be interviews, music videos, photographs, or objects such as tools and clothing, the artifacts. Example of historical sources, we have interviews, written sources, tools, fossils, caves, or rock paintings, which are part of prehistory. Prehistory is the stage before people used to record their life stories. It is important to know whether a source is a primary source or a secondary source. What is a primary source? It's a report or document that was told or written by people who took part in an event. For example, an interview is an eyewitness, a person who saw the event. A person, when something happened, that person was also present at the event. A photograph film of an event. A photograph or film which was taken at the event. A text message from a friend telling you about something he or she saw. An autobiography. Autobiography is a book that somebody writes about their own life. For example, we have Sam Nyoma's Where Others Wavered, and also Nelson Mandela's Long Walk to Freedom, and also other things. Secondary sources. A report or document that was told or written by someone who did not take part in an event. And the secondary sources often use primary sources to put information together. Examples of secondary sources, we have a history book, a biography, which is a book about a person's life, but it was written by someone else. And also stories about events long ago. These are the stories that were passed on from generation to generation, the stories that we are told by our elders. And these are also called oral history. Okay, we have come to the end of today's lesson. Answer to the activity will be provided in our next lesson. Remember to keep safe, wash your hands, and avoid crowded places in order to fight COVID-19. Thank you.